the Archangel Michael descends violently to Earth, landing in the heart of Los Angeles. Upon arrival, he defiantly severs his own wings, symbolizing a break from divine orders. Determined and focused, Michael storms a weapons warehouse, arming himself with an arsenal of firearms and ammunition. In the chaos, he confronts a police officer possessed by an otherworldly force, kills him, and commandeers his patrol car. With grim purpose, Michael sets out for the Paradise Falls Diner, a remote establishment perched on the dusty edge of the Mojave Desert. Meanwhile, a man named Kyle, a single father traveling with hopes of reconnecting with his child in Los Angeles, makes a stop at the same diner. There, he meets a small, eclectic group of people. Bob Hansen, the grizzled yet kind-hearted owner, runs the place with help from his son, Jeep, a quiet young man with a protective streak. Percy, the tough but good-natured short-order cook, works the grill. Among the staff is Charlie, a weary but resilient waitress who is heavily pregnant and uncertain about her future. Also present are the Andersons, Howard and Sandra, a middle-aged couple, traveling with their teenage daughter, Audrey, whose rebellious attitude causes tension between her and her parents. As the day wears on, strange phenomena begin to disrupt the quiet desert setting. First, the diner's television flickers and dies, followed by the sudden loss of radio signals and telephone service. An uneasy silence settles in just before an elderly woman named Gladys enters the diner. At first, she seems like any other sweet old lady, but her demeanor rapidly turns vicious. She insults Charlie with disturbing clarity and then, in a terrifying outburst of violence, attacks Howard, biting a chunk out of his neck. Kyle acts quickly, shooting Gladys before she can do more damage. The group is left stunned and horrified, but there's no time to process what just happened. A dark swarm of flies descends upon the diner, engulfing it in a thick, buzzing cloud. The insects disable any hope of communication or travel, effectively cutting the group off from the outside world. With Howard gravely wounded and no way to reach a hospital, fear begins to take root as they realize something far more sinister is at play. As the tension within the diner builds, headlights appear. Michael arrives just in time, storming through the front door of the diner with military precision. Without hesitation, he begins distributing weapons to the patrons, urging them to prepare for what's coming. His calm yet commanding presence brings a sense of urgency and grim clarity. They are under siege. Outside, a long caravan of vehicles screeches to a halt. Possessed humans, driven by an unholy force, pour out in droves. Their eyes are lifeless, their movements jerky and inhuman, like puppets dancing on invisible strings. The group barely has time to brace before the attack begins. The diner's windows rattle as the horde descends, surrounding the building and launching a full-scale assault. Under Michael's leadership, the mismatched group of survivors, civilians with no experience in warfare, fights back fiercely. Gunfire shatters the stillness of the desert night. In the chaos, Howard is grabbed by several of the possessed and dragged away into the darkness, his fate uncertain. The others are left shaken but manage to repel the first wave. Later, as they regroup inside the battered diner, Michael finally reveals the truth behind the invasion. God, he explains, has lost faith in humanity, declaring them beyond redemption. The attacks are not demonic in origin, as the patrons had assumed, but divine, angels sent to carry out mankind's annihilation. Michael was originally among them, tasked with killing the unborn child that Charlie carries. But he defied the command, cutting off his wings and falling to earth because he still believes, not in perfection, but in potential, the possibility for love, change, and mercy. He insists that the child growing inside Charlie is no ordinary baby, but the future savior of mankind, the last hope for redemption. Michael's unwavering belief clashes with Charlie's deep fear and resentment. Far from embracing her pregnancy with grace, Charlie confesses bitterly that she hates the child. Her admission is raw and human, an open wound of pain, uncertainty, and trauma. Michael doesn't judge her, instead, he reminds her that love can come later. For now, survival must come first. The next morning, as the surviving patrons of the diner try to recover from the night's horrors, Sandra steps outside and discovers a grisly, nightmarish scene. Her husband, Howard, has been crucified upside down behind the restaurant, his body grotesquely disfigured and bloated with massive, oozing boils. He hangs lifeless, yet unnervingly intact, as if preserved for some sinister purpose. Overcome with grief and disbelief, Sandra rushes to his side, desperately trying to free him. But as she makes contact, Howard's body convulses and violently explodes in a spray of corrosive acid. Percy, acting on pure instinct, throws himself between Sandra and the blast. The acid eats through him almost instantly, killing him in a matter of seconds. The others are forced to restrain her for her own safety, tying her down inside the diner as she rants and sobs uncontrollably. Meanwhile, the group receives a faint radio transmission, crackling and barely coherent, that reveals there are other survivors out there, small pockets of resistance scattered across the country. One such sanctuary is apparently not far from their location. The idea offers a glimmer of hope, but Michael remains firm in his warning. Attempting to reach it would be too dangerous. The group is ill-equipped, exhausted, and burdened with Charlie's impending childbirth. On the move, they would be easy targets for the possessed. As night falls once more, the tension tightens. A second wave of possessed approaches, more relentless and aggressive than before. They launch another assault on the diner, testing the group's weakening defenses. In the chaos, Kyle is separated and lured outside by the sound of a child's cry, a cruel deception. He walks into a trap and is ambushed, dying before anyone can reach him. Inside, the pressure mounts as Charlie suddenly goes into labor. With limited supplies and no medical help, Audrey and Michael work together to assist her. As Charlie cries out in pain, a haunting, otherworldly sound echoes across the desert. The blast of celestial trumpets reverberates through the sky. The noise is deafening and unmistakable. In the back room, Charlie lay on the table, drenched in sweat, her cries of labor echoing against steel and tile. Audrey knelt beside her, frightened but determined, guiding her through the pain. With one final scream, Charlie gave everything she had. Then silence broke. A baby's cry rose into the air. Thin, alive, defiant. Audrey gasped as she caught the newborn boy, her hands trembling as she wrapped him in a towel. In her arms was something pure, something that wasn't supposed to survive. Charlie, breathless and weeping, reached out. But it was Sandra, grieving and broken, who Audrey turned to. She stepped forward, voice soft. "Sandra, this is your grandson." In the escalating panic, Sandra breaks free from her restraints. She grabs the infant and tries to deliver it to the possessed outside. Michael, forced into an impossible position, intervenes and executes her without hesitation, saving the child from a terrible fate. Moments later, the walls tremble as Gabriel arrives in a storm of fury and divine power. He enters the diner with terrifying grace and confronts Michael and the others. A brutal fight ensues. Despite Michael's strength and skill, Gabriel is the superior force. In the struggle, Bob is mortally wounded, collapsing in front of his son, Jeep. With no time left, Michael knows the others must flee. He turns to Jeep and, with urgency and clarity, gives him a final message. Find the prophets. Learn to read the instructions. Then, ready to make his final stand, Michael stays behind to face Gabriel, allowing the others a chance to escape and protect the child who may yet save humanity. As dawn begins to break over the scorched horizon, the possessed horde suddenly halts. Dozens of them surround the diner, eyes glowing with that same unnatural light, but none dare approach. Charlie clutches her newborn tightly, and it becomes clear the child exudes a kind of divine protection. The possessed cannot come near him. Whatever dark force drives them recoils from the infant's presence, confirming Michael's belief that the baby is humanity's last hope. Seizing the opportunity, Jeep, Audrey, Charlie, and the baby make their way to Michael's stolen police cruiser parked outside. The path is tense but eerily clear, the possessed merely watching, unable to act. The survivors pile into the vehicle, knowing they have only a narrow window to escape. Inside the diner, Michael prepares to face his former brother, the Archangel Gabriel. The two celestial beings clash in a brutal, high-stakes battle, wings torn, blows exchanged, weapons clashing in a blur of divine fury. The fight is fierce and evenly matched, both warriors fueled by conviction. Michael's by his defiance and faith in humanity, Gabriel's by unyielding obedience to God's command. But eventually, Gabriel gains the upper hand. With a final, devastating strike, he drives his spiked morning star through Michael's chest. Michael staggers, pain etched across his face, yet even in death, he does not scream. He only looks at Gabriel with a final expression of quiet resolve. Then his body disintegrates into light and ash, vanishing as if absorbed back into heaven. Back inside the ruined diner, Bob lies mortally wounded. With the last of his strength, Bob pulls out his old, battered lighter. He flicks it once. Using the open flame, he sets fire to the leaking gas line, triggering a massive explosion. The diner erupts in a blazing inferno, consuming Bob and the remaining possessed in a searing fireball. After the explosion at the diner, Jeep drives through the vast desert with Charlie, Audrey, and the newborn baby, seeking shelter and safety. His face is marked by grief, exhaustion, and a growing sense of responsibility. It's then that he notices something strange. His body is now covered in the same intricate, celestial markings that had adorned Michael's skin when he first arrived. These mysterious symbols seem to glow faintly beneath the surface of his skin, pulsing with quiet energy. Jeep realizes they aren't just random designs. The group makes their way toward the mountains, hoping to reach higher ground and escape the pursuing forces. But before they can reach safety, Gabriel reappears, descending from the sky in a fury of wings and divine power. Though visibly shaken by his encounter with Michael, Gabriel is still committed to his mission. A desperate fight breaks out as he attempts to complete his orders by eliminating the baby. During the struggle, Audrey is killed, sacrificing herself to buy Jeep and Charlie more time. Her death is sudden and heartbreaking, another brutal reminder of how much they've lost. Jeep fights valiantly but is no match for an Archangel. Gabriel corners them at a rocky outcrop in the mountains, towering over them with his weapon raised, ready to strike. Then, in a blaze of light, Michael descends once more from the heavens, restored, radiant, and bearing his wings once again. He lands between Gabriel and the survivors, stopping the killing blow. Michael explains that this entire ordeal was never just a test for mankind, but for the angels themselves. God wanted to see which of his angels could still think, feel, and choose wisely rather than follow orders blindly. The truth breaks through Gabriel's rigid faith. Ashamed and conflicted, he lowers his weapon. Without another word, he spreads his wings and flies away into the sky, vanishing into the clouds, his mission unfulfilled. In the silence that follows, Michael turns to Jeep and tells him the truth. Jeep is the child's true protector now, not by divine blood, but by strength of heart and unshakable resolve. Michael takes flight, disappearing into the morning sky. Later, Jeep and Charlie reach the top of the mountain and look down into the valley below, where a small town lies nestled in the distance, a sign of life, of survival, hope. They descend toward it, the baby cradled between them. In the final moments, the three drive away in a weathered vehicle loaded with weapons, not as fugitives, but as guardians, ready to protect the child and whatever future he may bring.